Hello, friends. This is Reflections, a religious affairs program sponsored by Paducah Cooperative Ministry, where together we do God's work with human hands. I'm Karen Winkel, and I pastor United Church of Paducah here in Paducah. I'm your co-host today. Gregory's not with us in body, but he is here in spirit. Today we have a wonderful and I believe enlightening program for you that addresses the role of faith in addiction and recovery from addiction. And we have two exciting guests here to share with you. I think we're all affected in one way or another by addiction. So this is an important program because I'm certain that you have someone somewhere in your life who is affected by addiction or is in the recovery process, and you yourself may be in that category. But we have Janeane Tinsley, who's here really representing, I think, Broadway United Methodist and speaking to a program that a variety of churches are connected with, Faith Partners, and also Lee Pinkston, who's a member at Fountain Avenue United Methodist and is involved in special ministry to those who are making that important journey to recover from addiction. So welcome. I'll just invite each of you to just say a few words about yourselves. Janeane?
Well, my name is Janeane Tinsley, and I am from Paducah. Originally I'm from Crittenden County, but moved here in Paducah several years ago, and am currently seeking my master's degree in addiction counseling. Mm-hmm. But I am a certified 12-step counselor, and I'm very, very involved in the recovery community, not only here in Paducah, but in Western Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And Lee?
Well, I am a member of Fountain Avenue, as you said, and I've been working for about 3 years with people in recovery. I started out working with people in the Narcotics Anonymous group who were attending a Bible study that I had at St. Luke Aldersgate Church, which is no longer in existence. But we served a meal there in the afternoon, and people from that meal would stay and have Bible study with me. And then the Narcotics Anonymous group met there in the evening, and people would come early for that and join my Bible study. So I became good friends with many people and have followed them as they have tried to find new places to meet, and actually went to Vienna, Illinois with one of the members of that group, and we discovered Celebrate Recovery, and I've been working with Celebrate Recovery, which helps people that have addictions of various mm-hmm. kinds. Mm-hmm. So that's really my connection with this.
Mm-hmm. And Celebrate Recovery would be a kind of a faith-based program that builds on the 12-step programs, or is it a complement or a competitor? Isn't the right word?
No,
but
it complements the program. Uh-huh. But it's for anyone with any kind of an addiction. You don't have to have a certain addiction to belong to this, but it may be a problem that you have in divorce. In fact, their bywords is we help with hurts, hang-ups, and habits that mm-hmm. need to be changed. Mm-hmm. And they will help anybody. It may be overeating, it may be marital problems, depression, any kind of a problem. And anybody is welcome to come to participate in that, but it's Christ-centered. Mm-hmm. And it's based on the Beatitudes. They follow the 12 steps, but they also have 8 principles which are related to each of the Beatitudes.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that more in just a moment, but Janeane, can you help us understand just a little bit about addiction in general, and then what helps a person out of addiction that's connected to faith?
Okay. Well, addiction in general is really, it's a compulsive behavior. It is a disease. The American Medical Association characterized it as a disease early on in the 1900s. They originally started with alcoholism being the first addiction that was characterized as a disease, and then later other substances did follow suit. So it's not somebody acting out, trying to get attention or anything like that. It is a compulsion that people cannot control. Other types of addictions include eating disorders, gambling, even sex addiction. So there's a multitude of addictions, and these are all considered diseases. And as far as how addiction and faith are related, it really is almost like a crying out of being self-centered. And that's really the basis of what 12-step recovery is about, is to get away from your self-centeredness and to place your faith into a higher power, which is the words that they use in Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. So really it's the higher power of a person's belief that they transcend their need to feel inside their body.
And I guess to pick up on something that Lee mentioned about one of the Celebrate Recovery ideas, is that an addiction doesn't have to be a substance or even a troubling habit. It can be just an addiction to even an idea, correct?
Absolutely. People can become compulsive about anything. A lot of times, if you see somebody who may be addicted to spending, or shopaholic is another word for that. You may see people that are addicted to their looks, addicted to exercise. There's always an extreme to something that can be good. It's okay to go out shopping on occasion, but to go every day and spend thousands of dollars, that's an addiction. So it's definitely something that is out of your control. And that's really the essence of addiction. It's when you get out of control and you're constantly needing it all the time.
And your own will is not sufficient to modify that behavior.
Oh, absolutely not. You don't want, your will, that's the problem. You want to let go of your will and turn it over to God. That's really the essence.
And the purpose of the group is to provide support and hope, because many of these people begin to believe that there's no hope that they can ever recover from what's bothering them. But the group is there to provide support.
And just that whole idea of a group is so important, because one of the things I think about addiction is it becomes profoundly isolating and lonely. Even you might be surrounded by a family of 15 and still feel lonely and isolated.
Absolutely, and no addict needs to feel that they're alone. That's our purpose in Celebrate Recovery, and in the group, the faith partners that we both belong to, is to make sure that nobody feels that they are without help, but they are alone.
So talk a little bit about faith partners. I know that it's several churches coming together around the sense of wanting to contribute to the health and well-being of people in the community. What is Faith Partners?
Basically what you said, trying to just surround these people. It's not just those with addictions, but it's for families and friends of people suffering from an addiction. It is a way to help the congregations of the churches involved to understand their role and how they can become a healing place for the inflicted as well as their families and friends. And it's, where did it start exactly? Do you remember? Texas, I believe. Is that right?
That's where they're based now, is in Austin, Texas. It's the Rush Institute, and they're connected with Johnson Institute. I'm not really sure what that name is for sure. But almost a year ago, it was March 31st and April 1st of last year, that we had a conference here in Paducah. And there were probably 50 clergy people or those who are interested in working with people that are addicts. And we attended that conference for 2 days and learned a lot about how we as interested helpers could address people with problems, and how we could bring that into our churches and let the congregations be aware of the problems and how we can educate the people in our congregations, perhaps form a team of people from each church that could actually be there to help people and encourage them to admit that they have a problem, because it's very difficult to do that. But I think in every church, every civic organization, that there are people that have problems that don't want to admit it. It's kind of a blind wall there that.
And then we don't know what to do. I mean, many
Absolutely.
people have had the experience of working with someone or even worshiping with someone and they detect alcohol in the breath, or they're
Right.
aware of behaviors and choices that are endangering that person in so many ways. And I know that you have a little
Yes.
card that kind of helps shore a person up in terms of addressing that with someone that they're concerned about.
Well, these were handed out at our Faith Partners meetings, and we carry them around. And it says, "See it, say it." And it means if you see somebody that you believe has a problem, you need to try to help them, to say something to them in a private way when you have time to talk, and in an encouraging way of talking with them. And step one is, I care. You just need to let them know that you're not criticizing them, that you care about them. And number two is, I see. And you tell them what you have noticed that concerns you. Number three is, I feel. And you tell them that you feel that there is a problem that perhaps you could help with and that you are concerned. Number four is, I'm listening. And at that point, we're hoping that you take time to listen to the person, and maybe they will come forth with their problem, that you can determine what it really is that they need help with. Number five, I'm available to help. I want to help you. I see that there are things that can be done for you. And number six is, I will. And you do say that you will do whatever you can, maybe providing help from some other source, but that you will help direct them to that. They're not alone, that you're there to help. And there's a film available, and I think it's available at the Paducah Middle School, that is called See It, Say It. And actually, I think it may also be at Grace Episcopal Church, which is one of the 4 churches involved in Faith Partners.
And one of the things that I'm aware of is that you can see it and say it once, and that might not be sufficient. And so the challenge is to keep seeing it and keep saying it, but without judgment, I guess, or
Right.
without impatience.
Right.
Because addiction and denial are deeply connected.
Absolutely.
Denial is one of the first things that we work on in Celebrate Recovery. It's one of the very first lessons in that group.
So talk about Celebrate Recovery a little bit. So it has maybe some underpinnings that connect to the typical 12-step program, and then you said that there's kind of this complement to that that's
Right.
based on the
The
Beatitudes.
Right. At each of the meetings, we read the 12 steps, and we read the 8 principles based on the Beatitudes. At every single meeting, that's the beginning of it. And we also recite the Serenity Prayer. There's a great deal of structure to these meetings, and we need that kind of structure, as Janeane probably can tell you better than I can. We may sing a song or two. The rest of the meeting would be involved with a lesson that would go with from the curriculum. And this curriculum was developed at Saddleback Church about 15, 16 years ago. That's in California, and people may know about Rick Warren. That's his church. And this curriculum was written there. It's intended to last a year. And every meeting there will be a lesson that is taught, and people respond to that with their own experiences and their own sharing. And then the following meeting, the next week, will be people giving their own experiences and testimonies to that. I find that people at the meeting are very responsive and want to share. They want to help others, so they share their own experiences. At the last part of the meeting, the last hour of the meeting, the men and the women divide into separate groups. And because there are problems that are just don't need to be spoken about and with both sexes present. And I have worked as a counselor with the women in that for, I guess, about 15 months. Right now they're starting over. In January they began the whole process over again, and some people are going through it for the second time. And there are people that get to about the 5th stage and they drop out because it becomes very, very difficult to admit and to make an inventory of the problems that you have and to own up to them. And so people may be all right through the first few steps, and then they get to a certain point and they may drop out, and then maybe later on they'll come back. But we don't fix anything. That's one of the things we say every meeting. We're not here to fix your problem. We're here to listen and to support and to share and to offer hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I find it interesting that you're involved in this ministry, and you yourself haven't struggled with an addiction.
No.
And it's not common, I don't think, that I guess I'm like, in my church I have a support group for those who have suffered the loss of someone to suicide. Mm-hmm. And one of the lessons for me in that is there's only so far I can go in being helpful with them. And mm-hmm. so I'm wondering if what that's like for you in terms of ministering in the midst of these folks when the key element in their experience is one that you've not had.
Yeah, I did find that rather difficult, but when they have their award ceremonies every now and then, they actually gave me an award for going through the 12-step program mm-hmm. with them, and I was so pleased with that. But we became such good friends, and I'm a good listener, I believe, and they knew that they could entrust their problems to me. That's all confidential, you know. Many of these people call me on the telephone, and we have a connection just through our religion and our spiritual beliefs. Mm-hmm. And they know that I've been a pastor and that I do Bible studies, and I actually have a prayer every morning down at the riverfront in the Seamen's Institute Chapel down there. I have a prayer service. Some of these people have come to that and have prayed with me, and they call me with Bible problems, and it's just a mutual mm-hmm. respect, I think, for each other. I really mm-hmm. think a lot of many of the people that I have met through this organization, and I'm just supportive of their efforts to try to overcome. Yeah.
So God's given you kind of a special sensitivity and respect is a word that you used.
Yes.
That
mm-hmm.
so this is something that you're called to do.
Yes, and one reason I'm here is to say that I believe there are other people out there that will be called to do this also if they know that these opportunities exist. And this is what we want through our church groups, is to find people who will actually come forth and be there to help and support.
So somebody that was interested in kind of exploring that with you could reach you at Fountain Avenue.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Very good. Well, Janeane, I'm thinking that while we're talking about this, just from your experience, there may be some things that you would like to help sensitize us to or to lift up, because you do have certification as a 12-step counselor, and you're getting your MS in with a specialty in addiction. So help us understand a little bit more. Open this up for us a little bit.
Well, I think what's really important for people to know is they need to step away from their preconceived notions of 12-step groups. There are over 200 12-step groups that are recognized groups in the United States. And they have helped, Alcoholics Anonymous in particular has helped over 1 million people achieve recovery. And there is a difference between being sober and being in recovery. You can have somebody who is very sober, but they're still acting out their addictive tendencies in other ways. And that is not the goal of any 12-step group, just to get someone sober. They really want to help them get to that road of recovery and walk with them. As she said, it's not about fixing the problem. Instead, it's about a fellowship among people that are experiencing the same problem, and just carrying that message of recovery to other people that are afflicted. And the recovery community here in Paducah is very active. AA, Narcotics Anonymous, Nar-Anon, and Al-Anon all meet weekly, multiple times a week actually. And now that Celebrate Recovery is here, that's just an additional tool for people to use. But the 12 steps can be used by anyone. I think they are life skills. And that's really my goal as a 12-step counselor, is to help people understand what each of the 12 steps are and how to apply them not just to their addiction, but to all aspects of their life. And if a person can do that, then they can really see a new release on life. And they're basically starting over, but it's just in a much happier and content place. So it's actually very exciting groups to be a part of, and anybody can assist these groups. They are self-supporting, and they do not promote. So you don't see commercials, you don't have them going out and asking for money or anything like that. You're completely self-supported. But people come from all walks of life, and the anonymity of these programs are huge, and people take that very seriously. So if somebody is thinking about coming to one of the 12-step meetings, you can rest assured that what you say there stays there. It's a very safe place to be.
Yeah, that's a powerful part of what makes that healing journey possible, because there is so much shame about not just the addiction, but the behaviors that help support that addiction. A person may have been involved in deceitful encounters or even illegal behavior, and if you don't have some place where you can share that and kind of unburden yourself, then that's a pocket of pain that will follow you everywhere.
Oh yeah, and you can really feel the judgment of the world, but when you walk into those rooms, that judgment is gone. It's hard to explain unless you've walked through those doors.
Through a meeting.
And it's not like meetings that you see on TV. The typical, "Hi, I'm Janeane, and I'm an alcoholic," or it does start out that way. But then I think the media has portrayed 12-step meetings in a very sad way. It's actually a very enlightening place and comforting place, because you're surrounded by people that get it.
And they're working their programs, and there are different places in that journey. So there's always somebody who's further along, and there's always someone who's a little bit behind, and
Absolutely.
so you can be a help to someone as you're finding help.
Go ahead.
Doesn't each person have a sponsor?
Yes, that's exactly
who
what I was
helps
going to say.
them? Right. Okay, you may want to go on.
Yeah, because the sponsorship is a key component of working the 12 steps. You can work your steps, but if you don't have the sponsor to really guide you, then it's possible that you could work them wrong, but you definitely will not get that, the 5th step out, which is really sharing all the wrongs and self-inflictions with another person. And that's what's really important, is that you be able to share that person, that story, your story, with one other person, because then it's a real release of all the burdens, and then you can turn it over to your higher power. And your sponsor is going to help you with that. Your sponsor's there. It's just a phone call away, and it's very important to have that sponsor to walk with you down this road. They're not going to do it for you, but they'll definitely work with you in helping you do it yourself.
And encourage you when you feel like you're slipping. That's when you need to call on them.
As our as our time is quickly running out, I want to be sure that our viewers know how to find your program. Where would they look for you? And
Celebrate Recovery. We meet on Monday nights at 6:30 at the old Finkel building. It's the Free Spirit Church. People may know it by that. It's across from the Carson Arts Center. And 6:30 to about 8:30 every Monday night.
And again, they could ask for you at Fountain Avenue,
Right.
and get in touch with you that way. And
Right.
Janeane, that same strategy for being in touch with you, somebody could call and Broadway United Methodist and say they were wanting to connect with you. For
Absolutely,
some follow-up.
absolutely.
Do we have a moment
Yeah.
left? I'd like to mention that the library has a wonderful selection of books there. They're all in one spot where they can be found easily by anybody that's interested in reading about it. The other thing I want to mention is that we have a healing service at the church every first Sunday of the month. And this month it will be meeting at Fountain Avenue, 7 o'clock, and it's for anybody who feels the need of healing. We're especially thinking about addicts, but anybody that would like to come for a prayer service. Invite them to Fountain Avenue at 7 o'clock, April 5th, I believe it will be.
Well, I'm remembering a little line from a healing service that the Episcopals do, that God's will for us is health and salvation, and in the word salvation is the word salve, that God's desire for us is healing and renewal and recovery. I want to thank you both for coming and pointing us in that healing direction that God desires for all of us. That at the heart of those addictive behaviors really is a deep hunger for God. And so when we find ways to connect with God, we find a way out of those things that have kept us really from God. So Janeane, Tinsley, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you, Lee Pinkston, for joining us here on Reflections. And I want to thank you, our viewers, for joining us, and do join us again. And I would invite you with Paducah Cooperative Ministry, however you can, whenever you can, to do God's work with our human hands. Shalom.
In mission